Good afternoon. Today is February 28th, the last day of the month, which is good because February has been a tough month for us. Weather-wise, hasn't been very fun. Somebody asked about relics, and so for those who don't know, a relic, if we think of it's something within the church context, it is there's three different kinds, and so I'll explain those three different kinds today and then also answer a couple questions related to those as well. So a relic can be one of three classes, which the church calls. The first class is something that's very direct from the saint's body. So it might be a piece of bone, or even actually their whole arm or hand, as it is with Saint Francis Xavier, who is a Jesuit. The reason his hand or his arm is venerated is because he baptized thousands of people, literally. And so another piece of a person's body that might be venerated is their hair or a lock of hair, or actually their blood. Saint Januarius is one of those his blood liquefies actually on his feast day. One of the ones most unique ones that I've seen is when I was in Italy, when I was a deacon. A friend of mine, and I went up to Padua, Italy, which is where Saint Anthony of Padua is buried. And one of the relics that's on display, two of them actually, these are some good examples. One is his habit, so his brown religious habit that he wore. And then also, so that'd be a second class relic, which is something that he wore or used. So even like a pencil, that the saint used to write letters, that could be considered a second class relic. But the first class relic of St. Anthony that I found very interesting and very wonderful was his jawbone, actually. He was known as a wonderful preacher. And so they have his jawbone on display. It can seem kind of morbid, especially coming from a non-Catholic background. But we honor these saints for the particular abilities that they had, and it wasn't just their own like little superpowers. It was because they cooperated with God. They wanted to imitate Jesus more and more in their life, and so what they're known for is maybe how they're venerated as well. And so that's the type of a first-class relic is a piece of bone or an actual piece of the person's body. Second-class relic is, like I said, something that the saint used. It could be a crucifix, it could be a Bible, it could be a rosary, it could be a pencil, those kinds of things. And then a third-class relic is anything like a prayer card or maybe even a religious article that's been touched to a second or first-class relic. So lots of third-class relics exist. Another part about relics is that now it's not mandated or required, but it's still very much encouraged, is that there's a relic in each altar where Holy Mass is celebrated. And the reason for that is because in the early church, when Christianity was illegal in the Roman Empire, people had to celebrate Mass underground, literally, in the catacombs. Catacombs are the places where saints' bodies or the martyrs' bodies were buried at. And so they literally celebrated Mass over the bones of these martyrs. And so that tradition continued on. I did my 4 o'clock espresso. Where was I? Oh, and then so the way these altar stone or these relics are put into altars is one of a couple ways. One is that they're embedded within a piece of stone itself, and then that stone is placed within the altar. Or another way and this way I've seen it done more often, I think, is that the relic is put in like a little container, either wood or something like that, and then it's dropped into the altar. So the altar has like a little grave almost, where this holder goes into, and then it's sealed over with actual mortar, and it's sealed up securely. And so I've been involved in a couple of these. One is at the Cathedral of St. Joseph, where I was ordained a priest at, and the relics were put into this kind of sepulcher, we might even say, and then it was sealed up with mortar, and it was really cool. And then I was one of the deacons that helped clean all the chrism off. So when the altar is consecrated, there's chrism that's poured on the altar and rubbed into it by the bishop. And so I cleaned it off with some towels. And then I was the master of ceremonies for one at Holy Spirit Parish in Sioux Falls, which is where I lived at for a year. And so I was the actual MC, and that was a really complicated, not in a bad way, but you had to be on your toes to know what was supposed to happen next. And then was involved in the third one, was the consecration of the altar at Mater Ecclesiae Monastery in Sioux Falls, which is where the Sisters of Perpetual Adoration live at. And I was I wouldn't say I was instrumental, but I helped in obtaining the relic of Blessed Stanley Rother. And so he's a priest from Oklahoma who was martyred down in Guatemala. And then one more question that often comes up from non-Catholics and Catholics alike is, why can we have relics if we can't scatter the ashes of a person once they've been cremated? And the difference is because of what the actions that we do with relics, we're honoring, we're venerating them. And when we scatter ashes, we really don't know where those ashes end up going. We might know where they're at for a little bit in that general area. But especially in South Dakota, where we've got some windy days, those ashes end up going everywhere, unfortunately. And so part of it, we want to show the respect to the body that God gave us, that God gave the saints as well. And so that's partly why we have relics, is that we can pray in front of them. We can pray about their lives, learn from them, learn how they imitated Jesus. And so just hopefully this clears something up, but if it provokes more questions, drop a comment below, either on YouTube or Twitter or on Facebook when I put this up later on tonight. So hope you have a good rest of your day. May God bless you, and stay warm out there if you live in our area in South Dakota. God bless.